Good morning and welcome to After GMS. Today is Monday, December 13th, 2 weeks away from Christmas. Okay, the joy is there, the singing is not.
Hey, it's the thought that counts.
Thank
and the
you.
magic of the season. So
Ta-da.
feel however you want to feel.
I'm Tracy McCain, who cannot sing this morning, with Megan Malaris and Ed Matthews.
All right, we are singing Ed's praises for
Ta-da.
some decent weather this week. All in all, it is going to be nice, even though the mornings are really a little bit frosty.
Yeah, especially this morning. Take a look at these low temperatures this morning across the Piedmont. Everybody dropping down into the 20s. And yeah, we had a few spots that went into the lower 20s. Wilkesboro down to 23, 21 in Martinsville, Reedsville at 22, 26 low at PTI, Smith Reynolds Airport down to 28, 23 in Burlington and Siler City. And Asheboro went all the way down to 26. We had that clear sky this morning and light to near calm winds, and we had those conditions that allows the temperatures to bottom out, but not a cloud in the sky. We're going to see abundant sunshine today. So take a live look over downtown Greensboro. We need that sunshine to move these temperatures up, and they'll gradually move up, kind of warm up as we head through the week. Our normal high is 53, and we'll be at 58 today, so that's a good sign. We're looking at low 60s coming up Tuesday and Wednesday, and then by Thursday and Friday, some upper 60s for the Piedmont. Now we'll start to see a few clouds build as we go into late Friday. Right now we're going with a small rain chance over the weekend, kind of zeroing in on late Saturday, Saturday night, and maybe into Sunday. We've got a cold front on the way, and it really depends on the timing of that front as to really what stretch that we have of rain. But right now we'll just kind of broad brush the weekend with a low rain chance and focus in and zero in on it as we head through the week.
All right, well, our first conversation is on a serious note. Search and rescue and cleanup continue right now in 6 Midwestern states hit very hard by a deadly tornado outbreak Friday night. They too got the warmer weather, which fueled this tornadic activity. Emergency officials expect the death toll to rise, especially in the hardest hit Mayfield, Kentucky.
We've learned 4 tornadoes touched down in Kentucky alone. One of them left a trail of destruction more than 200 miles long. So given the extent of what you're seeing here, all this damage and devastation, emergency crews are struggling to determine how many people remain missing. Power and cell phone outages have made rescue efforts more difficult, and leaders in other states have confirmed at least 14 deaths, including 6 in an Amazon building in Illinois.
Well, many of us have loved ones in the Midwest and just want to know how we can help them. Samaritan's Purse, based in Boone, is making the journey to Kentucky and to Arkansas, some of the hard-hit areas. They'll survey the damage and determine where to get supplies right now. Samaritan's Purse is just one of many groups rushing to help. You can send relief by donating to either Samaritan's Purse, the American Red Cross, Salvation Army, Western Kentucky Relief Fund. There are so many options. Just make sure that the agency where you're donating is legitimate. You can find a link to all of these organizations on WFMYnews2.com.
Well, you know, we talked about this, but it's hard to ignore what you're seeing. You know, people can sometimes take weather alerts for granted, thinking, you know, this will not happen to me, this will not happen to my home or my family or my community. And then we see this, where a tornado stretched 200 miles, which is not ordinary at all, and completely leveled communities. These houses, these homes, these belongings that, you know, people will never, you know, get back. It's just so sad, and tornadoes are just so hard to predict that when you get an alert, it's almost better to overreact than to not react at all. Wouldn't you say, Ed?
Absolutely. I would say overreact in a very calm way. And just make sure that you're prepared. I mean, we preach this every time we have a severe weather threat here in the Triad, and sometimes we don't get severe weather, and that's great. That's fantastic. I've had people to tell me, what happened to the severe weather? Well, it didn't materialize, but sometimes it does materialize, and that's when things get really serious. And Tracy, you talked about 4 tornadoes touching down in Kentucky, but if you look at the 8 or 9 state geographical area, we had over 40 tornadoes to touch down. Now the Mayfield tornado, which we think is one of the stronger ones in that group of tornadoes, you had talked about the storm being on the ground for over 200 miles. And I want to give you a little historical perspective here. If we go all the way back to 1925, a tornado that moved through that part of the country, it was called the Tri-State Tornado of 1925. It originated in Ellington, Missouri, and moved all the way northeast to Princeton, Indiana. That was 219 miles. Estimates with the Mayfield tornado suggest that it was on the ground for about 227 miles. So this is all preliminary data. We're going to be studying radar, data that has been collected and all of that, and continue to kind of unfold the meteorological perspective of this. But obviously, this could be a record time that we have seen a tornado actually on the ground. 227 miles. That is a long, long path of destruction.
I mean, just look at that video. It is unbelievable. Houses destroyed, unrecognizable, cars tossed everywhere, bark off of trees. This reminds me a lot of the Joplin, Missouri tornado. That was an EF5 that touched down back in 2011. I remember covering the aftermath of that when I lived in Missouri, and that was just absolutely devastating. The death toll was high. Search and rescue crews, we know, are expecting the death toll here in Mayfield to increase. Our hearts go out to all of those families. I mean, this is just an unimaginable thing to be dealing with and living through. You know, when you live in the Midwest, you're so used to the sirens and you're so used to the school tornado drills. You know, you practice those and you hope that you never have to use what you practice. You hope you never have to experience the kind of devastation that we're seeing in that video, and yet you just never know. Tornadoes are so unpredictable, and you have not as much time to react as you do to, say, something like a hurricane. This past weekend, my aunt and uncle live right near where the Edwardsville, Illinois tornado touched down and killed 6 people at the Amazon facility when the wall collapsed. They got very lucky. They had debris in their yard, but thankfully they were able to get to their basement in time and their house was spared. But I am so sorrowful for so many of the families who cannot say that their loved ones are safe or don't know where their loved ones are because they cannot reach them. We know cell service has been down in several of these hard hit areas, which makes it difficult to determine if people are safe and just somewhere else or if they're missing and they need assistance. So Ed, it's really just this combination of so many factors making this really a tragedy.
Yeah, and you talked about the Joplin, Missouri tornado as being an EF5. That's as high on the scale that we can go. Now, preliminary reports, and I'm getting this from the National Weather Service office in Paducah, Kentucky. That Weather Service office is responsible for issuing severe weather warnings for that geographical area. We don't issue the warnings. It's our responsibility in the media to pass that information on. Of course, we've got powerful Doppler radar, and we're able to assess these storms as they move in, and we can start telling our viewers, hey, this one looks kind of nasty, and usually a minute or two after that we have some type of warning that's issued. But the Joplin, Missouri tornado was an EF5. Preliminary reports with the Mayfield tornado, just by looking with aerial coverage, flying over the area, at least an EF3. But the National Weather Service is going to get on the ground and they're going to look, but they're thinking it could easily be an EF4. And an EF4 would have top winds of about 260 miles per hour. And the point that you made about how quickly these things develop, that's the reason that we preach this again every time we have a severe weather threat. Talk to your family, talk to your neighbors, talk to everybody you can talk to make sure that you all are on the same page so you can take action quickly, because tornadoes, as I can attest to with the Sanford Raleigh tornado in 2011, Mom said the damage was about 30 seconds in length. That was when the tornado was moving over her house. These develop quickly, they strike quickly, and they move away quickly as well.
Rebecca Luck Phillips mentioned that she remembers when the tornado hit your mom's house, and she said she remembered it being a sad time, and she's praying for all those people in Kentucky that it helps them get through these bad times. How long did it take for your mother's house? Because I remember the whole street had damage.
Yeah, it was incredible. And I tell you what, through video technology and all that, we're able to see all of this damage that's out in the Midwest and the Tennessee and Ohio Valley. And you see that on TV and say, wow, that's amazing destruction. It is a completely different feeling when you're standing in the middle of it. When you're standing in the middle of it, you really get the brunt of the widespread devastation. And as I was driving to Sanford the next day, Sunday, the tornado in Sanford happened on Saturday afternoon. She said, don't come home now because you can't get to the house for trees being down in the highway. So I went home on Sunday, and she said, be prepared, you're going to be shocked. And I thought I was prepared. And I saw my mom's house and I just started crying.
Yeah.
I didn't know what else to do.
Right.
It was just such an incredible force to see that in person. Now, as far as rebuilding, Mom's area, I never thought it would look as good as it does now. I mean, you look at the destruction and say, how can we ever get back to normal? Well, you do with prayer and persistence and a lot of cleaning up. You eventually get back to normal. It's a different normal. Mom doesn't have those 80-foot tall pine trees that kind of peppered the landscape in her backyard away from the house. So it's a different kind of normal, but it's all cleaned up and it looks good. It looks good, but you look at the damage and you say, how could this ever be cleaned up? But it can happen. And
there was loss of life in that tornado as well. Your cousin passed away in the Sanford tornado, and he was on the other side of the street.
Yeah,
from your mom.
He was right across the street from my mom. I would say roughly maybe about 2,000 or 3,000 feet from my mom. The tornado went over my mom's house and then touched down to the ground just across the street and demolished all of those houses there. And a lady that, one of our good friends that hid in her bathtub. We talk about, getting down, getting into a bathtub or something like that. She traveled about 200 feet from where that bathtub originally was in the tub with her dog. And she just had a few scratches, and that was about it. But my cousin was in a modular home, and of course atmospheric pressure dropping rapidly as a tornado approaches, and essentially it just picked his house up. And an eyewitness saw this, picked up the modular home, and up several hundred feet it just exploded.
And Rebecca said she cried with all of you when you cover the Sanford tornado, because she lives in Moore County, not far from Sanford, and she remembers the story about your cousin and felt so sad for your family during that difficult time. You mentioned the importance of being in a safe place, and your mom was in the bathroom, and a lot of people here in North Carolina don't have basements, and so it's really important to identify your safe place, know where you're going to go and where you can go quickly when you get those warnings that there's a tornado on the ground. And for many people, that is the room that's on the lowest level of your house, interior, so away from windows and away from projectiles. So normally that's either like a hall bathroom or it's some kind of a closet beneath the stairs. The lower innermost room of your home is where you're going to go if you don't have a basement or storm shelter. So it's really important to be thinking about those safety precautions, because you never know when something like this is going to happen. And it's December. Nobody thought that this massive tornado outbreak would happen, even though obviously historically we've seen that it can, but it's just, this is more typical of spring.
Absolutely, and lessons can be learned from this incredible tragedy. Absolutely, we can have tornadoes and severe weather any time of the year, as we have seen in the past few days. Normally we think about, you know, the very warm and humid conditions that we have, kind of the energy that gets these storms going, being around in spring and summer. But obviously, if the atmospheric conditions are right, you can easily have tornadoes. And this particular geographical area was under a moderate risk of tornadoes. That is a level 4 out of 5, 5 being high risk. So the people were warned. You know, I'm sure TV meteorologists out there were really on top of this and saying, look folks, stay tuned to TV and radio so we can keep you updated if the severe weather hits. Unfortunately, it did hit. So that's the reason that we preach this when we even have a chance. Sometimes we get the severe weather, sometimes we miss it. Not all of those pieces of the puzzle come together to bring the tornadoes. Unfortunately, all the pieces of the puzzle very much came together in this part of the world in the past few days.
A lot of people are remembering past tornadoes that have happened in our community and also across the state. The Greensboro Tornado, of course, in 2018, which also impacted homes and neighborhoods in Rockingham County as well. Scott Lynch brought up the 1984 tornado in the eastern part of the state, said that there were so many deaths and so much tragedy that stemmed from that. I'm not sure if you remember that. Were you?
You know, interestingly,
you had to have, right?
It's interesting that you say that, because I was just a little intern at a TV station in Raleigh. And the night that those tornadoes struck in eastern North Carolina was my very first day on the job.
Wow.
Yeah, needless to say, I wasn't grabbing coffee for everybody. Man, I was thrown in the fire.
Oh.
And I tell you what, I learned a lot. Just a big tornado outbreak. I remember Red Springs in southeastern North Carolina, one of the hard hit areas. And as I was driving to class at NC State the next morning, I was listening to the news on the radio, and they said 44 fatalities so far have been calculated in southeastern North Carolina. And I'm just like, wow. This is just incredible. 44 fatalities from that outbreak on my very first day on the job. A real learning experience, but an unfortunate way to learn.
Yeah.
You mentioned learning experience. Erica said because of the storms the other day, she and her family found their safe place in their home. So she thanks everybody for making them think about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, seconds save lives. And again, I know this with my mom and my sister as they went into shelter when the tornado and that tornado did develop down in Moore County, moved through Lee County, up through downtown Raleigh actually, and then on into Franklin County before it dissipated. About a 60-mile track, and we're talking about this tornado that moved through Mayfield being on the ground over 200 miles. Certainly an opportunity to be prepared. Seconds make differences, and that's the reason we stress so much the importance of having a conference and communicating and sitting down in the living room and talking to your kids and talking to your entire family. What do we do if a tornado is coming through our neighborhood? You don't have the time to say, okay, are we going to do this? Are we going to go here? Are we going to go there? You got to have that plan in place so you can, in seconds, seek shelter.
Yeah, very good reminders and lessons. We don't often think of this time of year as a tornado type of season. However, it is always important to keep weather at heart. If you have a weather radio, if you have your News 2 app, those alarms are clenched. Like, they are so important during a weather emergency. They will definitely lead you to safety. And I know you guys sometimes take a lot of slack and flack from viewers when you're on the air, especially around March Madness.
Oh yeah, and it's difficult, and I understand. We do get some irate calls and emails occasionally, but folks, what we're just trying to do is we're trying to save lives. And that really came home to me with the Sanford Tornado, just how important it is to get the information, correct and vital, concise weather information about severe weather out to our viewing audience. And somebody in Winston-Salem that may be watching a great program on WFMY News 2 where nothing is going on, but another part of our viewing area is experiencing a tornado, obviously we're going to break programming, but just be patient if you're not being impacted, because next time it may be your neighborhood, and then you'll be very glad that we're on the air covering it.
Well, I know everybody is thinking deeply about the families affected, wanting to help. Again, we have a list of resources for you on our website. If you're donating anywhere, just make sure it's a reputable organization. 501c3 is a good place to start. And thank you for all you're doing to keep our friends and family in the Midwest in your thoughts. Let's get to some morning headlines right now, and we'll start with this. Cone Health will start giving COVID boosters to teenagers ages 16 and 17 today. Remember, the CDC and FDA authorized the Pfizer booster for that age group last week. The agencies recommend everyone receive COVID boosters to improve vaccine protection against COVID. So again, teenagers 16 and 17 can get the Pfizer booster. Appointments are available at vaccine clinics across the Triad. Wake Forest University will require boosters for the spring semester. Students and staff were required to get COVID vaccines before the start of the new school year, and now they'll need boosters by next month. Medical and religious exemptions are allowed. Masks are also still required.
We know at least one case of the Omicron variant is in North Carolina. Health leaders say a student who lives on campus at UNC Charlotte tested positive for this strain. School officials say the student traveled out of state for Thanksgiving before and returning to North Carolina for school. Leaders say the student is fully vaccinated and their symptoms are mild. In a statement, the health department said the student was isolated and has recovered. Well, testing remains a very important part of tracking this spread. North Carolina A&T State University implemented a successful testing program that keeps case numbers low. WFMY News 2's Denise McMiller is at North Carolina A&T with more on the school's plans and how it's being recognized nationally for its testing efforts.
North Carolina A&T began using rapid tests before they were approved by the CDC, but the risk was worth it because they have kept the percent of students and staff testing positive for COVID-19 at or below 2% since the beginning of the semester, and they're doing it using a two-test system. Here's how the process works. Say, for instance, students test positive for COVID in a dorm. Everyone in that dormitory is given a rapid test. They'll know within minutes who has the COVID virus. Now, those who test positive are isolated and then given a follow-up PCR test that is done for a more accurate reading, and those results will be available 2 to 3 days later. A physician with A&T says it's the immediate rapid test results that prevent the virus from spreading instead of waiting for those PCR results.
We really can stop the contagiousness, the spread of the virus at events like birthday parties and funerals and holiday gatherings. But it takes a real commitment to this idea that you'll do a rapid test before you go somewhere where you might expose someone.
Dr. Doolittle says he's been in conversation with government officials about making rapid tests more available and affordable, where folks are able to have a stash of rapid tests ready to go at any moment.
You'll see that the possibility that someone could have all these rapid tests at home and could say, okay, today I'm going to go see my grandmother. I'm going to test before I go.
In North Carolina, A&T is ahead of the county in terms of vaccination rates for those between the ages of 18 and 25. 80% of their students are fully vaccinated, and they are prepared to ramp up testing when students return after the holiday break.
Well, that brings us into our next conversation this morning. Again, state health officials detecting the variant, the Omicron variant, in North Carolina on Friday at UNC Charlotte. And with Christmas about 2 weeks away, we know families are making plans to spend the holidays together inside. But will that change, will Omicron change how you're feeling about things?
So this year, a lot of things are different from last Christmas, considering people have the option of getting protected against COVID-19 with the vaccines. But we are still learning more about these variants, especially Omicron. So we want to know, are you canceling or changing any holiday plans because of COVID? Are you taking any extra precautions this year? Let us know here in the live feed.
Okay, while you're answering here in the feed, there's a new CBS poll that shows 81% of Americans have not canceled their plans with this new strain that is spreading and being detected in more than 27 states in the U.S. at this point. 69% of people said they would be getting a booster.
Yeah, we heard from Diane, who said she's not at all taking different precautions. Everything for her planning is staying the same. Diana also said, where I'm going, everyone is vaccinated. So again, emphasizing the reason why she feels like it's okay to continue on as normal this year.
All right, so you can go ahead and type in, of course, this is now, I need to refresh. You can type in your answers in the feed and let us know, and we'll read them as much as we can get in. So, you know, my holiday plans haven't really changed because we just made them a few weeks ago. You know, we're doing something small, just like we did for Thanksgiving. And it really is just, we have a baby at home. I know people, you know, you just have to take a little bit more of a precaution when you have a baby. And so he's only 9 months old, so we would have kept it small regardless of, you know, what's going on in the world, as we did with all of our children when they were that young at Christmas time. So yeah, the plans aren't necessarily changing, but I would have to say, I mean, life has changed, right? I mean, everything that you do, you kind of have it in the back of your mind and you're thinking, you know, what do I need to do? Let me feel the room, let me see what the situation involves before you, you know, decide what you're going to do and how you're going to react. And I just kind of think that's how we are as a society right now. You kind of see what's happening, you feel the room, and then you make a decision. And people are going to do whatever they want to do.
They are, and you have to consider that everybody's family dynamic and everybody's circumstances are different. I mean, I, for example, I've shared with you, I'm vaccinated, boosted, but I'm also pregnant, and my son is too young to get the vaccine. So we're keeping Christmas very small this year on both sides of the family. My son's second birthday in January, going to be limited to the grandparents, and that's it. But, you know, he's not going to know the difference, and we're going to make it special for him either way. So we just have to do what we feel we can do to keep our family as safe as possible. And what's best for us might not be the best for you, and that's okay. I think everybody needs to use the personal responsibility to make their own decisions. That said, I've been tracking these metrics, and unfortunately, they are going up. We are seeing more COVID spread, and health experts in North Carolina say that's not because of Omicron, that's because of Delta and more people gathering inside. We saw a little bit of a spike after Thanksgiving and are hoping not to see that after Christmas. So again, just use the information that's available, the reputable information, heed the warnings from health experts, and then I think everybody can make a safe decision that's best for their families.
Yeah, I'm part of that 81%. We're not going to, you know, change any Christmas plans or anything like that. Not going to have a big group of people that gather at my mom's house either. I'd say maybe 8 or 10 people max. And I know the people that are going to be there, and I can't think of a single person in the crowd that hasn't been vaccinated, and I think the majority of the people have had the booster, including me. You know, we're going to move forward. We're going to have a great Christmas. We're going to celebrate. But I can certainly understand, you know, people, you know, being extra careful. And we are as well. But I feel a lot safer knowing that my family members have been vaccinated.
A lot of people are keeping it small this holiday season. Not sure if that's because of Omicron or Delta, or if it's just because that's what it always is. It's part of your holiday tradition, which could also be the case. But our Brian said, I really don't have plans for Christmas. I would most likely just go see my mom. Erica Courtney said, we are staying home and keeping it small, keeping it the reason for the season and not about buying gifts. Dana says we're keeping it small for Christmas. As is Ty Johnson, who said we have a limited guest list for Christmas. Debbie Isley said no plans, staying home. I'm fully vaccinated and booster, but we will be staying home. That's Debbie. And Linda said my plans to stay in with my daughter. My family is in Boston. I miss them, but I will stay in North Carolina. And Joanne said plans the same, family gathering at my home, children, grands and great-grands, all have been vaccinated, she said, with some hearts that she added at the end of that.
Can you believe Christmas is less than 2 weeks away?
I can. Woo! I can.
This year has
been a
flown.
year, right? A lot's happened.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot's happened and a lot has stayed the same. So
Yes.
yeah, 2022 I think will be a welcome year for everybody.
What will also be welcome is a lot of people want snow on Christmas, but you know, it's a little too early to say, but last week you said the percent of that was not very good.
It's extremely low.
Yeah.
It's just barely moving the needle on the old percentage scale. And we do have weather charts that go out a few days past Christmas, but I'm not going to stick my head out this early because, I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. That's how much the atmosphere can change over between now and Christmas Day. But as we get closer, we're going to be talking more about that Christmas Eve and Christmas Day forecast. But this week, confidence is running high that things are going to be very quiet. We're going to see plenty of sunshine over the next few days with a little warm up. We're looking at upper 50s today. Low 60s tomorrow and Wednesday. Wednesday will keep it down a little bit. Maybe a dry backdoor front moving in, kind of keeping a lid on the warming. But then by Thursday and Friday, we're up into the upper 60s. We'll start to bring in a few late day clouds on Wednesday. Weekend, still kind of murky, but I'm trying to put it all together. Our models are suggesting a cold front will approach. Timing is still off a little bit by the various models, but we'll bring in a low rain chance late Saturday night, maybe spilling over into Sunday. One thing's for sure on Sunday, yeah, we're going to chill it down for you once again as we drop into the lower 50s. And of course, we'll pinpoint that weekend in greater detail over the next few days.
All I could see was 67.
Yeah.
I know you did such a great job breaking down every day, but in my mind I was like, Thursday.
You focused right on Thursday and Friday, right?
So I did notice the morning lows though, tomorrow and Wednesday are particularly chilly. So it's one of those situations where you like go to work dressed in layers and the big parka, and then by the afternoon you're dressed way down.
Yeah. Yeah.
We gotta make the changes necessary.
Yes.
All right, so this has been an extended after GMS to start your work week, and we hope that you will join us tomorrow for more great conversations on your morning headlines, and we'll see what Ed has in her forecast for us too.
All right, take care.